Good evening, YouTubers. Well, it's been an interesting day today. I was watching Trevor this morning, Trevor Colt, and he came out with this figure of 35 million fake accounts with Twitter. That's what they've owned up, apparently. According to Trevor, this is why Elon Musk hasn't bought Twitter, because they've owned up to 35 million fake accounts which are used for selling things, persuading people to buy things they don't want, and various other things. But the penny drops, doesn't it? The penny drops when you think, if they've owned up to 35 million fake bot accounts, then the truth is probably way higher than that. Out of 300 million, it's probably, let's say, 50%. You know, so while you're following people, you're following things, and you think, oh, they're popular. Oh, this must be good. You're being deceived. You're being totally deceived and led up a garden path by people who want, well, your money, mainly. But it can also be misused for other reasons when you think about it. If political parties were to buy a load of bots, a few million bots, and try to persuade you as the electorate to vote a certain way, and they're using these bots to dishonestly persuade you to change your mind, and you wouldn't have changed your mind had you not been persuaded by a load of bots. That's got to be illegal, hasn't it? I mean, how much of this illegal persuasion has been used in general elections, referendums? I mean, the referendum itself, I concluded, this is my opinion, that rich people in the UK, and we're talking mega millionaires, billionaires, have been getting away with not paying tax for so long. The EU were clamping down on it big time. They brought out legislation. Everyone's got to pay tax, okay, including all these millionaires who've been hiding all their money in the UK and UK tax havens, Cayman Islands, places like that. Gibraltar even's got its own tax laws, but there's a lot of British tax havens dotted around, because the British feel that if they get the rich people to come to invest money in the UK, then they've got to give them some sort of incentive, and not paying tax is a pretty big incentive, isn't it? So the only way the millionaires were going to get out, the billionaires were going to get out of this situation, was to get out of the EU. And then they're not forced to have this legislation come through into British law, because that's the way the EU works. They bring out legislation and you incorporate it in your own law, because there's no like one general law for the whole of the EU. It's every country, nation puts these things into their own laws. And I believe that the billionaires and multimillionaires who didn't want to pay tax, they felt that they were above paying tax and that they were too important, they funded the referendum. And of course, how do you persuade a load of poor people that rich people like me shouldn't have to pay any tax? Well, you just change the subject, you just muddle it all, and use loads of bots. And they've obviously used loads of bots to persuade people to think it's a good idea, because let's face it, once you've left the EU, all the prices are going to come down, aren't they? Petrol's going to be cheap, the food's going to be cheap, you can make a fish for as much fish as you want, the NHS is getting loads more money pumped in. It's all marvellous, isn't it? Everyone's happy. And if they're not, and it doesn't look like it's going that way, blame someone else. Oh, it's the Ukraine. You know, so using bots, and it's just come to a point now, hasn't it, ahead, where the government were just sick of Johnson and just got rid of him. But he had that Dominic Cummings, didn't he, working for him, he was, let's say, dishonest. I remember him being dragged up in front of the what's that? Select committee, the House of Commons. Anyway, they question people, they summon them, come here, you sit down, explain, and they're like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And he'd been going around the NHS hospitals and he'd been replacing the leaflets. And, you know, when people wait in the waiting room, there's a big rack of leaflets. Well, he'd been going in there, removing leaflets and putting his own leaflets in, supporting the referendum. By the way, making it look like the hospitals wanted Brexit as well. And they were nothing to do with the NHS. These were Dominic's political leaflets that he was putting into the hospitals to persuade people dishonestly to thinking that maybe leaving the EU was a good idea. And it's got to be an offence. And if Boris Johnson and Cummings and people like that are proved to have bought loads and loads of bots and tried to manipulate people on an account like Twitter or Facebook or any other social media, because it's very strict how much money a political party is allowed to spend on its campaign, because obviously otherwise millionaires would win all the time because they've got the most amount of money. But all the political parties in law in the UK, you can only spend so much, and if you go over budget you can be prosecuted. But if you're hiding it, buying loads of bots and shit like this that you're not declaring, you're not putting down, that's dishonest as well, doesn't it? And it draws up the whole scenario that, you know, if it can be proved, then these people, the elections and referendums should be null and void, and these people should go to prison.